Hello and welcome to the React Lecture 4 coding path. So as I mentioned that we are going to see the React hooks example, right, like the useState one. So for that, let's start working. So this is the VS Code that I'm using. And so as I mentioned, that's we created a template, React template. So I'm going to clone that. So this one is here. I mean, I already shared this one in the first lecture, this template link. So let's copy this link and then I'll just clone in here. So I'll say the git clone, and this is the address, and then we'll say that we'll give a directory name is that React hooks. Okay, so that's where you want to clone it. And so React hooks is created here. Okay, so inside of this we have the source app.js and we have the JSON file. Okay, so that's good. Let's and go inside. So we write cd react hooks, and now if I can install all the dependencies, so which is it's basically the same thing for all the coding part example, right? So you need to install all the dependencies where the dependencies are inside the package.json, right? So, and when you install this, the node modules file will be created here. So let's install it. We write npm install, which will find out all the dependencies in the JSON file and install. Okay. So we see the node modules is created, dist is created. Now we'll run, see that it's working. npm start. And says welcome to React. So that means it's working. Now let's go and start working on the useState hook. Okay, so open the app.js. Okay, so here we have welcome to React. Look at, okay, so let's add another component. Let's say that we add a movie component here. Okay, and then in here we are going to use it. So we can create a separate components or separate models and write the movie component, or we can just write in here. So since this is a small example, so we can just write in here. Okay, and so it need a return statement, since every component must need a return statement, otherwise it render nothing. So we have a return statement. So we need to use the import, right, for the useState. So we write import useState. So we can use the feature of this one. If I click, it will automatically import. Okay, so it said import useState from React. Okay, so that's we are going to use. So this is, as I mentioned, this is a special built-in function in React which can do certain things, right? So for example, the useState is stored the state of the variables, right? And then you can update the state, and then it will uh, keep the updated state. So you need to create the useState inside a function, okay? So you cannot create outside of it. So we'll create, so let's say that constant, and then so the useState return two things. One is the variable, another one is the function. So let's say that's our name variable, and then this is the set name function, and then we write useState, okay. And then useState we initialize to name as, so let's say that this is the movie name is Titanic, Titanic. Okay, so that's our initialized name. Okay, and if you want to see this name, we just want to write in the JSX. So let's say that we write S3 as the movie information, uh, and then we write here is that, let's say under the p tag we write the movie name or movie title. You can write movie title is the name. Okay, so this is a JavaScript variable. So we need to write within the curly braces. Okay. So if you just see this, it shows you the current state of the name. Okay. So if you see this one, let's see that, okay, we are calling the movie from the app, so they are linked. And then we see that movie title is Titanic. Okay. So that's showing is fine. Now let's say that if you want to change the state, okay, change the state of the name variable, okay, and then it can be by any event. Okay, let's create an event. Okay, let's say that we create a button click event. Okay, so write button, and then button name is, let's say, the next movie, and then here we want to write an event, so write on click. Okay, so if it is a on click, then what will happen? Okay, so we can write directly a callback function here to call the set name function. Okay, so we can say, since this is a very small code, so we write, okay, uh, set name, and then give the name of the next movie, which is, let's say, Matrix. Okay, so now you see that initially the name will be Titanic, but when you click that, then it will call the setName function, and setName function will change the name information, right? So it will be changed from Titanic to Matrix. Okay, so let's see that. So we now have a button, right? So initially it's Titanic. Now if you click it, and then it shows Matrix. Okay, so if you refresh, it's Titanic. So that's the initial value, and then if I click it, then it's actually changed it, right? So that's a very good example of a single attribute, right? So now think about the objects. Okay, so objects are basically described with multiple attributes, right? So for example, movie is an object which has title, release year, stars, and all this thing, right? So realistically, we need to work with multiple attributes for many things. I mean, if you think about count, which is a variable, then it's fine. It's just a single value, so that's fine. But when we are thinking about objects, then we need to think about multiple uh, variables. So one way is that you can just duplicate this one. So let's say this is the title, and then release here and this. I mean, you can create multiple use state, but that's not an efficient approach, right? Because that's it's just a waste of coding, right? So instead, we can create an object. Okay, so let's modify this one to an object. So let's say that this is not a movie, a name is a movie, okay? And then set name is a set movie function, okay? And then useState is basically an object, okay? So I'll write an object here. So object will have attributes, which is a title attribute. The value is Titanic, let's say, and then we'll say rating. Okay, so rating, we say that, so let's say that this is a restrictive, so R, and then let's say that we have a released year, uh, and then release year, let's say that's 1997. Okay, and then if you want to make it a string, that's fine, because we don't want to do any math competition here on the year, so that's fine. So we said that, okay, use state, so this is the initial thing, right? So we have movie, title, rating, and release year. Okay. So if you want to access that, since it's just one object, so we can easily access it with just movie dot. Right. So we need to write movie dot title. Okay. And then we'll just copy and paste two more times. One is movie rating, and then we'll say, okay, let's give a space here. Movie rating, and then one more, which is movie release year, right? That released year, and then let's say that movie released year, or just year. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so these are the three information it should show, right? So let's see that it shows that, okay, Titanic, movie rating, and the movie year, right? So now, if you want to click for next movie, and then we want to give some information, right? So we cannot just give like this because it's now become an object. So we need to give the information as an object format, right? So let's say that some of the information we want to keep. Let's say that the next movie, it can be the rating could be the same. I mean, if the rating is different, it will override. If it is the same, then it will keep same, right? So in that case, we can create a separate function and define in there. So let's say that uh, we'll not define in here. Instead, we'll just call a separate function called say change movie. Okay, so that's a separate function we are going to call. So we need to define that function. So when is the on click? So it call a separate function means event handler, right? So we have an event, um, click event, and then we have an event handler. Then go away. Okay, so let's define the function. So we write function change movie function. Okay, so we need to define the change movie. So how we are going to define it? Let's say that we want to pass the next movie information from here. Okay, so in that case, we need to pass what the information we are going to pass, right? So we'll say that change movie will go as an argument of the change movie, and then it will go as an object. So we'll say the object is we want to change the title. So the title is say matrix. Okay, so it was tightening initially, and then we have changed the initially it was tightening, and then we are changing it to matrix. Okay, so we'll take that as a new movie. It will go as an object. So here we are calling the set movie function. So we call the set movie, and then set. So this is a function, right? So that's the function symbol. Okay. Now, what you want to do that maybe the next movie, some of the property and the value can be matched. Okay, so let's say the rating is the same or released year is the same. Okay, maybe title is only different. Okay, so what we have to do, so this use state has a very important feature called you can keep the previous state. So this is also is a defined name, right? So you can write anything here like previous state or whatever that is, the previous movie. Okay, so the previous state is, so we want to return this, so we want to write this one. And then since this one will be an object, okay? Um, so because the movie is an object, so this is the object symbol, and then since we want to return at the same time, so use the parentheses. Okay, if you don't want to use the parentheses, then you need to use a curly braces and then say return statement. So usually, a React developer prefer this way. Okay, so what we're going to do, we want to keep this one as it is, right? So we'll keep it as a, so it's the three dot for spreading the state, previous state. Okay, so this is the object. So this is the previous state as it is. Now we say that, okay, we want to merge it with the new movie. So this is, we also want to spread the new movie. Okay, so what is actually this one is doing? So this one we'll take that whatever the previous state of the movie was, so in here, and then this one says that okay, this whatever the new information is coming, that will merge with the previous state. Okay, so since we are only passing the title, so it basically all this one, right? So we need to write a callback function here. So we write this with this. Okay, and okay. um, Yes, let me see now. Okay, so now it looks fine. So let's see that. Okay, because we are going to call this one, and then since we are passing the information, so that's why we need a callback function. Okay, So if you're not passing any information, then you just call it. But we need to execute this because we are passing the value. So go here and then see now. So if you say next movie, and then you see that it's skipping the other information, that rating and the year is the same, only the movie name is changing, right? So let's say we'll check it again, and then Matrix. Now let's say that Matrix released in 1999, right? So we'll change that one. So let's say that if we also pass the release year, and then we say that this is 1999. Okay, so that's the release year. Now, okay, so this is initially is Titanic 1997, and the next movie is Matrix 99, right? So you see that the use state is keeping the previous state, and then it's just updating whichever you are sending the new information. Okay, so this is a very good example that how you can merge the new information with the previous information and then use of the object. Okay, so you see that here if you want to uh, pass the information, right? So we are using a callback function here, and through the callback function we're calling this and then passing the information. Okay, so that's about the movie information, right? Though the another example that we have seen in on the slide is that say form input. Okay, so along the line, I mean, we want to create a larger form. So in here I'll just want to show you a quick just one field form. It's very small form example to just introduce you the use state in the form. Okay, so right, let's say that we create a user form here, which is our React component. Okay, so we are calling the React component from the app. Okay, because it's just the demo purpose. Okay, so we write function user form. Okay, so that's the React component, so it should be return statement, and we use the fragment elements. Okay, so let's say that um, we'll have a name field. Okay, and then we use a use state. So we say that constant, we write name field, and then we write, okay, and then we write set name. Okay, and then we write use state, and then we initialize the name to be just an empty string. Okay, now inside of this, let's say that we want to display the user information. Okay, so write user information. So I'm not adding any CSS. Okay, so because the main focus is the use state function. Okay, and then in the user informations we are printing the value of the name. So let's say that we write the p tag that username is name. Okay, so give a space and then just print the name. Okay, now it's basically will just show that empty, right? So if you see that the username is nothing, right, because we initialize it to the empty string. Okay, now let's say that we take the input from the user, so we need to write the input type. So we'll say, so this is just a self-closing tag, so write input widget with the type is text. Okay, and then okay, let's say add more information like input type, and then we say value. Okay, so the value we will register with the name. Okay, so that means whatever the name, that will be the value of the input types field. Okay, so let's say that um, okay, so we need to control it, so that's why it's giving me. Okay, so that's will be the control by, we'll say that on change. Okay, so on change, what will be an on change? So on change, if there is an event happen, right? So what it that means if the change event happens, so what we'll do, we'll call the set name function, okay, and then we'll say that whatever the event dot target, okay. So the target is your text field, okay, and then what is the value of that, okay. So that will be um, the set name, okay, the name. So the name value will come from here, okay. The set name function will set the value of the name, and then that value will go to the value, okay. So E is basically the event. What is the event? The change event. If there is anything happen on the text box, okay, so that's the change. Like you type something, so there's a change. Every change will be reflected um, by the input text value field, input type text field value attributes. Okay, so let's see that. So username, so let's say that I write my name, and then as soon as any change happen, and then it shows in here, okay. So if I write this, and then so if you change anything, and then immediately it's keep the effect in here, right. So this is another example of the use state we are using in the form. So most often what we do, we submit the form, right. When you submit the form, and then we take the value from that field and we send it to the server, right. So we'll see that when we want to do some fetching example and routing example, right, and then eventually when you go for the front end and back end implementation, and we'll see more and more of the form example. Okay, so there's some more things are coming which will be more interesting. Okay, so in a short, so we see the useState React hooks, right? So useState keep the state of the variable or objects or array, and then useState also returned a function which usually we start with set user defined function name. Okay, and this function is used to change the state of the variable. Okay, and we have seen that single state here, for example, this one is also the single state example because we have just the name variable here, and we also have seen the object state, right, where we have multiple attributes and the values. Okay, and then we also have seen that using the spreader symbol, which is three dots, how you can spread that in an object, and then you can also merge, how you can merge it. The new information will merge with the previous information. Okay, so that's it about this lecture, and then in the next lecture we'll see fetching, okay, and routing. All these example are coming, and then we'll use the more hooks, like we use the use effect hook, okay. We'll also use params hook, use such param hooks, okay. So that will be more interesting. Okay, so thank you and see you in the next video.